Alright, I've got a 2003 Mercury Marauder here. Had it for about 13 years. It's always had an issue with, not always, but an issue with the cooling system airlocking. It's a common problem with these, not just Fords, but especially these cars. It's so hard to purge the system or burp it. I finally bought one of those lift pumps and the vacuum filler, whatever the term you want to use for it. It's got a smell of coolant. Doesn't like blowing heat. Takes forever. Gauge will say it's overheating, even though it's not. Not overheating, but getting hot. So it sat all winter. We didn't drive it. I actually did a video on this about a year, well, a little more than a year ago. My daughter turned 16. I gave it to her. She didn't want it. Bought herself a Jeep. So now my younger daughter just turned 16 and she wants it. So I'm going to take care of that problem. The air conditioning doesn't worth a damn either, even though I just had it charged. So there's some other issue there, but I'll leave that to a shop that takes care of that stuff. I don't have any equipment or any real knowledge of how to repair such a thing. So that's that'll get done once we get this fixed, because now everything's expired on it except the insurance. So I've got a new heater hose. I suspect it's a heater hose that runs in under the intake manifold to the water pump. The back of the water pump's got on this car, it's got this metal nipple, and it's O-ringed. No different than the 2001 F250 over there, the 5.4. It's got the, honestly, I think it's the exact same water pump. It's actually a GM water pump. I think their Impalas use the same thing. So I think that's where the problem was when I put the heater core in this, and I had it all apart last year. I pulled that valve cover on the passenger side, on the right side, and I had a really hard time getting it back on, and I beat that heater hose up pretty good back there. So I suspect that's where the issue is, because it's just, you could burp it and purge it all you want, and it just doesn't last long. So we're going to take the intake off. The car's surprisingly easy to work on, believe it or not. I just had to wait, got the intake, I had to get new intake gaskets, even though you could probably use these, they're silicone, but I don't know, for the 30 bucks I'll just replace them. So I'm going to take care of all that, get it all apart, get it drained out, and hopefully track down this coolant leak or issue. It's none of the hoses, all the hoses are brand new. There's no leak there. Like I said, the water pump's new, O-rings new O-rings in the crossover tube, which I did have an issue with at one point. I bought the O-rings off of eBay that they claim are the correct for this car, and the crossover tube in there they're not. They just didn't hold up. They were slightly too small. I put them on there anyway, and putting it in, it just tore them. Actually, just had O-rings here that I ended up using, and it's not coming from there. So at least I don't think it is. I don't know. I really do think it's that rear hose. The correct way to pull that valve cover, according to the owner shop manual, is pull the motor mount, drop the motor down, and honestly, the fight you'll have with that valve cover, if you ever have to remove it for any reason, do it the right way. I didn't, but I was able to get it back on. But I think that's what caused me my problem. So I'm going to get into it here, take it apart, and we'll test out that new vacuum system for filling the cooling. So let's get into it. Already disconnected the battery. Not that I think that's totally necessary, but I can charge this when the car sat so long, it's deader than the doornail. Might as well just pull it out. Put it on the charger. But what I wouldn't do for a new garage, and I have one coming. Well, not coming, going to be built, and at the end of my driveway here. But like everything else these days in this country, I won't see it till October. So from this point on, I'll be counting the days, and I'll just continue to work like this. But all right, I'm going to drain this out. Nothing really to see there, and maybe I'll zoom in and see what I can do to get some better shots of this. Oh, the motor's a 4.6 dual overhead cam. Same motor they put in the Mach 1s. Everyone thinks it's a Cobra motor. It's not. The Cobra motor is supercharged. Maybe that's the only difference. I know you can retro these into having that supercharged motor, which is something I'd love to do someday, but I don't have the time or not the money at this point for sure to do something like that, as neat as it would be. And there's parts lists out there for it, but it's a 4.6 dual overhead cam. Again, it's almost 100% sure it's the same when they put in the Mach 1, except this has an iron crank, and the 5-speed Mach 1s or 6-speed Mach 1s have a steel crank. So there is a difference there, from what I've read. Anyway, let's get this thing apart. Alright, I'm going to work on one of these. You can see it down there. I'll try to get a better picture from the bottom right about there. That's your thermostat housing. It's got two. You see the back of the one, the bolts come in from the bottom. I think they're 8mm or 7mm, and that housing separates, and your thermostat's in there. You gotta watch when you're putting that together. I cracked that one. That's a new one from Dorman, or might even be a Ford part. I don't remember. You be careful with that. You crack the ears off, and they're inexpensive and they're easy to get. So that tells me one thing. Happens to most people. But all right, let me get some coolant out of this now. All right. So you got this air dam in the front, 3 8mm bolts. That should be pretty rusted. And you get those out, get it out of the way, and you got easy access to just about everything under here. You look up there. Let's see, can you see it or not? Get a little light. So that's the thermostat housing. You can see the 2 bolts. So once you pull that, have your drain pan ready, because it's coming. I think I'll just pull the clamp off. I want to get the thermostat out to really flush this out and drain it out. So let me get this out of here and I'll be back. Well, you know what I'm really good at? Giving advice and then not following it. Yeah, I made a mess, but it's draining out. It's all over. Boy, I got it all over everything. Had to blow those out with the air hose. Didn't get the phone though. So I got a little bit of a mess here, so be cleaning this up here in a minute. So you get the bolt for the metal hose. Got a pipe back here. I think it's 10mm. It's not easy to get to, but it's there. That's the nut for the wire, and then I think the ground wire goes on the same stud. I think it's a 13. understand why Ford couldn't run this, put another pipe on that water pump, or just direct it to the outside of the engine rather than going underneath this intake. I don't understand this. I'd imagine GMs are the same way, because that's a GM water pump. From what I understand, the V6 Impala use the same one. Alright, so here's where we're at. We got the heater hose pipe out. So this end runs into the water pump in the front. I mean, I'll show you the one on that 5.4. I think they're identical. Maybe. No, they're different. Same idea though. Here's the one out of the 5.4. It's not new, I just painted it. So that in there goes up to your heater core. Actually goes that way. Where my thumb is there, that bolts onto the bell housing. So it's a bell housing bolt. That's it right there. 10 millimeter on top, holds a grounding strap down, and then this goes through the lower part of it, the actual stud part, goes through the bracket that's affixed to that heater pipe, and then of course into the bell housing. So remember, 10 and 13. Now, the only place that I could find any type of leak is around that O-ring. I mean, it's the only place to see any staining or anything. And there was a lot of water in the what I'll just call the lifter valley, even though I understand it doesn't have lifters, but underneath the intake you can see where it's been leaking. That's got to be where it's coming from. The heater hose, as much as it was marred up and everything for me beating it up with that valve cover, I'll show you, it didn't have any holes in it. It doesn't have any signs of leak, and normally you see some staining or whatever. So I have the new hose. I'm going to change it, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull the, I've got some coolant to clean up. I'm going to pull the water pump off, just reseal it. As long as I'm here, I might as well do it. All the hoses are already new. I replaced those last year, so I'm going to go with that. And it's tough to see now because how much of a mess I made already, but more or less you see the darker staining up here at the top, right up in here. Okay, that's been there for a while. Even on the aluminum, you can see there's a lot of green. And back there in the corner, that's where everything drains out, by the way. You can see that the mice or something was building a nest under there. There's a lot of hair. I took even more. Well, anyway, all that hair was like soaked. So I'm gonna guess that's where it was coming from. And I probably could have gone no further than that, but I don't care. I've got the time and the parts were cheap, so nothing I could do now. I'm gonna actually try to track down the right O-rings for this crossover tube. We're looking to eliminating it altogether. You know, if it's only like $100 for the part and some block off plates, then that's what I'm gonna do, because this thing is, I don't know, it's just a crappy, again, I'm not an engineer. I know I say that a lot, but this is just a stupid design. Even the pipe itself, this is two pieces, here and here. And there's two O-rings there. And of course you have your O-rings here and here. So, I mean, looking at it, I don't, there's no tears in that O-ring or anything like that that I could see. It looks like it's in pretty good shape, just nothing. I mean, I looked at it, so the pipe appears to be round and not bent or anything. I don't know how it ended up like that anyway. And you have these two temperature sensors here. I don't know. All I could do is seal it back up and put new coolant in it. And hopefully that's the end of this friggin' problem. So that's where we're at. Heater core is definitely airlocked. I mean, nothing, no coolant came out of the heater core hose, the top one, or I should say the right one. It had to be leaking out a good amount because this thing is not full and it's not burning it. I mean, the exhaust looks clear. There's no odor to it. And it just, I don't know. It's left puddles underneath it, but it's never anything significant. Nothing that you would think. So I would just assume as I'm driving is where most of it. It's a decent smell of coolant. So again, though, no steam or anything like that. All right, so my original plan was to just run the hose all the way out, and I didn't because of this here. Well, now I'm thinking I might still do that and just cut this off right there. And I only have to worry about one set of clamps in the intake. Everything else will be on the outside. So I'm going to take a little bit better of a look and see what the fitment is back here. But then again, I may just cut it in a spot that I can mend it back together if this doesn't work. Probably be better off doing that on the outside too, because if the clamps are going to interfere, kind of shit's creek if this doesn't work out, because you can't replace this pipe. Not that I know of anyway. So let me put a little thought into that and then we'll see what we're going to do. Alright, made my decision. I'm going to cut this at the lowest point it is in the intake, right here. Let's make it ring sparks. Wheel's too small. It's hitting the tool, I couldn't go all the way through. I'm gonna have to clean this up. Alright, here's what we've got. I replaced the nipple. I put the Dorman one in there. It was easy. Came out easy, went in easy. Nice tight fit. I was able to double clamp them. I've already had the intake on it. There's plenty of clearance underneath it, despite what I originally thought. I had to turn those clamps that way just to put the two clamps on. One's probably enough, but I figure I'll double them. Silicone hose, it's good to 500 degrees. I forget how many PSI. So I think this is going to work. And then I used this stuff for that, put that nipple in. It's like lubricant and I believe it seals too. So, Seal Glide. Never heard of it until I did this job. So anyway, we'll move right along here. Alright, next is this crossover pipe. I'd love to buy a new one, and you can get them, but they're really expensive. So I should take the time and clean it and paint it. And I'm just not gonna. So maybe for another day. Anyway, we got 2 O-rings here where this goes together. 2 there. I already kind of cleaned it up, and you got 1 here and 1 here where it goes down into the block. And when you order the O-rings from, I had a hard time getting them. I'm sure you can get them from Ford. And I ended up using, originally when I had this apart the last time, I used, I believe these are out of my Harbor Freight kit, and I think they failed. They didn't really fit right either. I stretched them out to put them on. They're real hard now too, so I got the right ones. You can't get them like AutoZone and that. I got them off of eBay, a company called Nelson, but these are really nice. So these are the correct ones right here, and they're cheap, and I got them pretty quick. And I believe it came with the O-ring for the, I don't know, it's got a smaller one here. You know what? That's probably for the plug. So I'm gonna get this together and start putting it all back together, and then we'll vacuum fill it. I'm ready to get these cleaned up. Oh yeah, these are really nice. I'm gonna put some of this Seal Glide on there. Originally, when I had this apart last year, and I put O-rings on it, the reason I ended up using the Harbor Freight ones was because I ordered a kit, and they weren't really, I don't know, they didn't seem that great, and I got them off of eBay. It wasn't these, it was something else. And when I put it together, it immediately failed. It was leaking antifreeze as soon as I started the car, and when I pulled the crossover, that's where it was coming from. Both sides too, just running right down the back. And when I pulled the crossover tube out, both of them were torn, completely torn. And they went in easy enough, but they just didn't hold up. So I don't remember what brand they were, but maybe they were unbranded. But they were terrible. It wasn't these though. These have good reviews. Just looks, you got all this corrosion and paint chipping off of here and shit. So make sure you don't get any of that under over the O-ring. We're good there. This is just simple. Just goes together like that. It's probably too far in. Fits nice. That's that. Those 2 things are done. Intake's already started cleaning that up. And I guess what the hell, while we're here, I'll change the plug O-ring once it's on the car. That'll be serve as a little holding fixture for it. Oh, alright. So I'm going to take a quick look here. I know I broke a vacuum hose. It was actually dry rotted. We'll replace that before I get the intake on. I think it'll be easier to get. I'm going to finish putting that heater hose on, and we'll go. Keep going from there. Look at these gaskets. They've got a little button there that goes the correlating hole. So button side down. See the button in there. See it right there? That part goes down onto the motor. So it holds the gasket in place. Put it the other way, you're definitely going to have some leaks. intake. The little tab in the back here for the engine harness. You can see that. That goes to the rear. Just watch your hoses and everything else. You can hold it up here. There we go. It fits. There's no issues with any clearance or anything. Now let me look up the torque spec for this. Get it all torqued down. Doesn't matter hooking all this other stuff back up. So 89 inch-pounds. We'll start it off at. We'll start at 69. And go from there. I don't really want to use the swivel. There we go. Rear one, you have to use the swivel. I know it's not the right way to torque it, but I'm not about to pull this cover off of here just for this one. Try to get it as straight as I could. Actually, try to do a little better than that. I just can't get on it. Four, 5. Six, 7. 10. So we'll go through that 2 more times and that'll be done. Don't put the upper intake, let them on until you put the injectors and the fuel rail in. Another thing is, make sure you look inside your injectors. It only takes a second, but I had a piece of paper in this injector right here. I don't know where it came from. It's been sitting on the bench here for now 2 weeks, I guess, and who knows where it came from or how it got in there, but lucky I noticed it because it definitely would have clogged the injector. Take your time, crack anything. Slide right on there. Just put your 4 studs in. hot here in the east part of Pennsylvania. It's gonna be close to 80 today. I'm sure the torque on these is like everything else on this intake. They're all the same size bolts. Not that they're the same bolt, they're the same size. I'm not going to torque these though. Yeah. I don't think it's that significant. Let them down. Pressure down on the fuel rail, make sure it's seated. Do it this way, just don't kill it. Just get antsy. It's getting nice out. We're out in the woods. Good enough. All right. Go juice back up. Push them in there. This vacuum liner broke. Injectors in. Fuel pressure regulator. On the studs. Shouldn't miss anything, which I'm sure I will. Well, none of it's really that difficult. Get that over there now. Alright. The next side. Still have dielectric grease on them from the last time, so I won't put any more. Alright, got all that. Auto cable. Temperature sensor and alternator wire. Alright. Just make sure when I put this upper plenum on that there's nothing else in the way. Pretty easy to do. here. And I believe therefore right there and there. Altogether there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 maybe? I don't know. Bloodhounds are barking and howling. They're probably not going to get a torque wrench on this one either. Well, you kind of just get a feel for what it is when you can't get a socket on these hard to reach ones. Alright. Alright, so it's 89 inch-pounds. And here's the sequence. There are 7 bolts. So, I'm looking at this thing. Look at that. So it's 1, 2, and here, 3 on the other side of the EGR. Number 4 is this one. 5 is the long one. 6, 7. Just gonna run them down quick with the back. Make sure your threads are started before if you're going to do this to save yourself some time. Wrong socket. These are all 8s, so they're not the same size, same torque though. Just till they touch. I hope I don't have to take the toes off, but I'm guessing that I have to. Another molded hose from Ford you can't get. I'm gonna make one which really stretches it out. That's really hard to get off. I don't care if I ruin it, I'll just make another one, but not. Yeah. All right. on it, but it's not really straight. All right, that's number one. Two. Number four. Here. Got away from me. All right. One. Two, three, four, five, six, and seven. That's that. Zip tied both of those. Alright, I lost one. No, I didn't. I know where it is. It's the hose that comes off of the crossover. this EGR connection. Sure what size it is. 7/8. It's not 7/8. It's over an inch. Nope. Looking around for anything laying there I might have missed. Alright, got most of this hooked up real quick on the alternator bolts here and here. Make life easy. Start them in there. Bottom of your alternator's got bolt holes that are open. Just set them on there and run them down in. See how much help he is? Now it's all together. So now we're going to vacuum it out and fill it. Get a bucket full of antifreeze. This card. I don't remember which one we're supposed to use, but I have the Presto all vehicles. It's green. That's what I use. Never had a problem. This one's all flushed out now anyway. So this is OEM Tools vacuum tool, and or they call it the cooling system filler. There's a bunch of them out there. This is relatively inexpensive. That's the end that goes in the bucket. Comes with adapters. You gotta find the right adapter for your degas bottle. And this does two things. It vacuums out your system. Three really. Lets you know if you have any leaks. There's a vacuum gauge. Take it down to 25 and fills it up. Don't interfere with your beer drinking.
Tasty.
Oh boy. or no one sees them.
You never know, he might become a hit.
I doubt it. I like doing it though, so. Just put the adapter in there, and when it pulls vacuum, it'll kind of suck it on there anyway. If you turn that, they all kind of work the same, I think. I mean, everyone makes them snap-on. There's different ones on Amazon. I don't know which ones are which, but this is the one I bought. Try to get this you want this to stay down in the bucket. It's not going to be easy. Clamp. It's going to keep coming up. Just need something to hold that down, because once you start filling this, you don't want that coming out of your coolant. Defeats the whole purpose of doing it. But we'll take care of that. So what you want to do is pull the vacuum on this. Put this to your air. Hook that up. Make sure all your valves are closed. And then open this one. Open this one. If you leave this one closed, and then this will pull your vacuum on your system. You'll see it'll collapse the radiator hoses and everything. Try to get that back up a little. Close the valve on here first. Yeah, it only goes 25. Close that one. Shut your air off. Let it sit like that about 10 minutes. Just to see if you have any leaks. If you do, well, then we'll lose vacuum. So just wait for it about 10 minutes, and I'm going to see what I can put some kind of weight or something on that hose to keep it out the bottom of the bucket. Alright, it's holding. One quick thing while you're waiting, just crack this open quick, fill your hose up with coolant. I ended up attaching a C-clamp to the bottom of that to keep it weighted down, because otherwise you're going to pull all this air into your system first, and again kind of defeats the purpose. So here we go. Pretty neat. I don't know how much it takes. I hope 4 gallons was enough. I think it should be.
Oh, I'm sucking it down pretty quick, Joe.
Yeah, I know. Alright, well, it's full. I disconnected everything. Just, I guess once it stops pulling, just close the feed off for the antifreeze. Then just open the Venturi valve, which is that one there. And or I'm sorry, remove the air. I guess maybe this is the Venturi valve, I don't remember. Just open that, and you'll see your gauge drop to nothing. Then you can loosen this up, pull it out, open this valve, and whatever's in the hose will run back in. But it's full. It's full. And all we can do now is start it up and see. I think it's going to be all right, though. Well, there it is. Temperature gauge wouldn't move at first. It wouldn't blow heat. And I wasn't expecting that, but took it for a ride once the thermostat opened. It's been sitting there, it's got to be a half an hour now. Needle's where it needs to be. Hasn't moved. Everything's working right. Except the air ride compressor. Save that for another day, but it's good. It's 83 degrees. This car's been sitting here running for 2 hours. Needle hasn't moved. It's been there since we started it this morning. Basically, the car's been running since pretty much 7 o'clock this morning, right? We only shut it off when we got the cramp pops, so it's perfect. The heat works. We tested that this morning, and the AC is good. And then the air suspension compressor took a dump on us, so we're about 30 miles from home, so we're going to ride the brick back to my wife's office and steal her truck. Compressor's on its way. I guess I'll make a video of that. Right, Allie? For some reason, Allie thinks it's funny.